My good friend, Randy Thompson. Randy, thank you so much for coming. So this is the first fireside chat that we're doing this evening. We're going to be doing a few of these with some of the most influential people in the world, and you're no different, my friend.
I appreciate that. So yeah, it's great to be here. We have to buy food and alcohol because when you're in finance, you're just not fucking cool, right? So you have to make up for it with plying you with food and alcohol. So that's what we're doing. I'm here. We love Puerto Rico. One of my business partners is in the back, Rod Brown. We've been working in about it's 27 countries around the world right now. We've been investing in startups, and I'm not a finance guy. I'm literally an entrepreneur. I have an advanced high school degree in political science and English literature. So for us to learn how to do capital was a big deal. Like we want to take an entrepreneur's heart into our investing strategy, and that's what we do. So yeah, I won Canadian Angel of the Year this year, so that's kind of cool too.
Woo! So let's go into your background a little bit. So you got started in the .com era. What year did you get started?
Okay, so I am old as dirt. When I started my first company, I think half of you in this room were not born. So I was 23 years old. I just actually had a real job in politics. That's amazing, right? And we've done some amazing work. But my minister, we have a English system in Canada, not the American system. So my cabinet minister had a small incident where he might have lost his job, which meant I lost mine. So my political career was a whopping 2.5 years. And by the time I was 23, I got out. So I'm having beer with my best friend. And we're pretty much doing what you and I are doing right now. And my buddy, he just says, because we're Canadians, we're having beer. We were literally watching hockey. And he says, you know what we should do? We should start a company. And I went, yeah, man, that sounds awesome.
Sounds like how all great companies are started.
Absolutely. So I became that intentional about being an entrepreneur. That was my big plan. And my buddy, he was an amazing guy. He was like OCD. Like I said I was going to do a company, so that meant I was being serious. Dude, I'm watching hockey, I'm drinking beer, right? And he literally went and rented a place, and he put our name on a lease for a year.
And he was like, show up at 9 a.m. You said you were starting a company.
That's exactly what happened, man. But wait, it was worse than that, because I had to come up with a check for my half of the rent.
Wow.
So I became an entrepreneur because my best buddy screwed me out of $500.
That's awesome. So this is in the .com era.
Yeah.
And I things were a lot different back then. I mean, you could buy a website and become a global brand overnight, and I think you can still do that, but it's a little harder. So what do you think? What have you learned from growing up in the '90s era of the internet, and what parallels do you see to today?
So let me tell you, it's actually worse than he makes it sound. Okay, so think about. Okay, wait. You can look it up in a museum. There used to be this company. It was called Netscape. Look it up. Okay. Okay.
Netscape. Yes.
See, if you know Netscape, you just proved how old you are. Okay. So pretend you don't know Netscape. Okay. So when Netscape came out, that was the first GUI interface to the internet. I'm telling you, we were 4 years before that.
Wow.
So I'm telling you, the internet sucked even worse than it sucks now. And you had to type in something called Unix code. I know most of you guys know it, but when I'm usually doing this talk, people go, what's Unix, right? Well, it's the core of everything. Like Unix is everything. And so we were typing commands in a monochrome dot matrix, the little monochrome screens where you get the yellow and you type in Elm or NN News or Pine. We were literally teaching people how to use Unix code to get on the internet.
So my mother was a computer programmer in the 80s. She programmed COBOL.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have a computer when I was in the second grade. And it was one of those. It was like a DOS monochrome, black and white. and I learned how to use the command line, right? And that's something that we take for granted today. Today, we all have iPhones, and I've heard some people say, "Oh, the kids are so smart; they know how to use an iPhone when they're a baby," but they may not know how a folder works and things of that nature.
You couldn't use the internet without understanding a folder system, right? Now, the funny part was all the people that were not coders who became our customers. And think about how fast back in these days people were joining the internet. Okay, you had to take these things. They were called disks, and you'd insert them in something called a Pentium. You can look all this stuff up on a Wikipedia. It's amazing. It was a 5-disc install to get the internet running on your Pentium computer to run a.
I remember, and the AOL discs.
You got it.
There were multiple. It wasn't one floppy. You had to do a couple of them.
I'm getting a tear just thinking about the good old days. But just think, for all of you who are startups, I just want you to know how shitty that startup is. Like, this is not, I'm going to start a SaaS play today. This is literally trying to teach people that use a fax machine, that the world is going to be disrupted in less than 4 years by something some bozo named Al Gore called the superhighway thing. And people were all thinking, I got to get on this superhighway thing. No, it was really, really, really hard.
Well, and people couldn't even imagine it, right? I have a friend of mine he does IT consulting. And he used to sell fax machines, and he used to go down to Atlantic City. One fax machine was like $3,000 or $4,000. He used to make a lot of money doing it. And he would go to these conventions similar to this, and would sell fax machines, and people would ask him, "How do you roll the paper up and send it through the wire?"
Yeah.
Because that is the level of thinking for technology that people have.
Hold on. Anybody here do tech customer support anywhere? Okay. Have you ever had this where some person is about to give their kid the internet December 25th, and it has to work? So we're doing tech support for this person, and the tech support person says, "Okay, type in C/command, whatever it was," and it's take it, and the guy's going, "It's not working. It's not working. It's not working." "Well, what did you do?" C/command. "Okay, spell it. CBACK." This is the level of morons that we're dealing with, getting them onto the internet. We had 9 people doing customer support, and why is that important? A lot of you guys are doing startups. Startups are so fun, right? When they stop being fun is actually when they become companies.
People like Zuckerberg and these dudes, they create a startup because they don't want to live in a corporation. Right?
Totally.
They don't want to go work for a big corporation.
And what's Facebook? It's totally true, right? So we have 9 people, and we can't afford them. It becomes a cost center, right? And now you're worried about growing too fast, but nobody pays their bills, like especially your internet or phone bill, right? So we're charging people $30. Hey, you know what happens when you're a pioneer on the internet? How's this e-commerce thing going? There's none. We're literally sending.
It's all Amazon. Amazon's like 50-something% of all the internet sales.
No, but think of
20% is eBay, and there's a few players.
But back in the day, think about this: we're sending a dot matrix printed invoice in a 30-cent stamp to 12,000 customers, asking for $30. And so every 30 days, we're sending 12,000, 15,000 invoices.
So you're doing e-commerce before PayPal, before crypto, before anything.
There's no e-commerce.
And you're paper invoicing for digital products.
So here's the kicker. I'm actually selling the access to the e-commerce world, and there is no e-commerce back then. This is before web pages, man. So when I sold my company was actually 7 months after, and we sold it because we were just fleecing people for giving them one-page websites where the president of the bank would be on, and we're on the internet, right? And we built like Wells Fargo, and then stick the poor guy for 25 grand, right? And so that's when things changed. But right back in the beginning, when you're running a really front end, nobody's been here before startup that's now a real company, I just gotta say, you're fucked. You actually have, nobody can help you because there's no mentors who've done this before. Nobody wants to finance you because they're looking at you do a demo of Unix on a monochrome screen, but they're making millions of dollars sending faxes. Like, so no financing, no mentoring, and two guys who accidentally became entrepreneurs in the internet space because we had a beer watching a hockey game.
It's crazy.
It was not just crazy. I was saying I'm serious. I have PTSD my entire career now. I want to make sure entrepreneurs never have to go through that. But you know what I found out? You all got to go through it.
No, for sure. Well, I say that to my team all the time. Like when you're creating software, when you're creating an app or a startup or website, if you're doing something important, you're doing something that's never been done, right? So if you're doing something that's already been done before, it's low risk, low reward.
Yep.
But if you're doing something that's never been done before, you're a pioneer. And chances are when you're a pioneer, you may get slaughtered during that innovation, and someone may learn from your death and then pick up and re-innovate.
It's so true. It's so true. And we were lucky. Do not feel sorry for me. We sold the company. But you're all smart enough to know, when was the best time to sell an internet company at the time we're talking?
1999. Yeah.
So 1996 is the wrong answer.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've done a calculation in my.
So you have PTSD from running the company, and then 3 years later, you got it even worse when you saw what companies were selling for.
Absolutely. And then, by the way, if you've never done this before, the best time of your life is running a startup. The second worst time in your life is actually when your startup becomes a company and you're running 20 employees and you hate it and you're not coding and you're not doing anything fun anymore. Like, everybody starts to hate you, right? I used to say, I never wore this thing. I used to be cool. And then I became a business owner, right? But the third worst thing.
I'm dreading the day when I have to stop wearing this disrupt shirt.
Oh, never stop being you, right? Never stop being you. The last thing that's really worse than running a company is actually selling one. It's a horrible, horrible process, and you usually get raped. There's no way around it, right? So I did okay, but I know how much money we left on the table, and it just makes you sad.
It's almost like if you sold Bitcoin when it hit like $100 and you thought you did a good job. You're like, yes, I sold Bitcoin. It cost me 50 cents and I sold it for $100.
It's so true. Yeah, and then
for
it's
sure.
10. Yeah.
So you're talking about like PTSD and like entrepreneur anxiety and like stress and burnout. Besides moving to Puerto Rico 2 blocks away from the beach like me, so you can jump into the ocean when you get stressed out, what are some other ways where people can kind of mitigate some of that stress?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I didn't realize why I love Puerto Rico so much. We come here about 3 times a year. I'm really looking to do some investing, and we work with a lot of the different groups in terms of helping entrepreneurs as well. And it's that you guys get the option of, when you're really burnt out, just open your window, right? We can't do that in Canada. It's a really bad idea. It's minus 40. There's things you have to learn to take time out. Like, so I know I don't look like it, but I still play what we call proper football with soccer. You got to take that 2 hours, and you got to separate yourself from, no matter how bad it is. You can always find an excuse to stay in the office. That's the problem, right? There's always one more fire or one more bomb going off, right? And I just had to learn. You got to take 2 hours somewhere, a scotch bottle, a running machine, whatever it is.
Well, I mean, the thing that I tell myself and my team, don't worry, there'll always be more work tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, that's a great saying.
Yeah. I should say it more often. Yeah, Manny's in the back looking like, you've never.
Yeah, you never said that, man. You tell me more. I want more. Exactly.
Super cool. So let's talk about the time that you funded an axe murderer. You funded over
210 companies. We were saying before, people ask me what my focus is, and I just say I'm kind of a deal slut, actually. I love doing deals, but it's more about the entrepreneur journey. I love that, helping people the journey. So what happened, just quick fill in, is the reason I actually started a formal angel group in Western Canada where I live is because I thought at the time, it must have been the investor's fault. Like, It's their fault. They don't understand technology. Because if they knew I was sitting on the beginning of the internet, what investor wouldn't have given me a check, right? So I started an angel group as a mad entrepreneur with a chip on my shoulder. I was not an investor, right? And what ended up happening is I found out as I became an investor, I was actually really running a shitty company. And so so now I learned all these lessons, and we were able to help entrepreneurs more. So we were getting better deal flow, and all of a sudden we have 100 people in my group over 5 cities. And so collectively, we've literally done 210 deals. But then, Canada's kind of boring and small. It's like Puerto Rico. Is there 210 deals in Puerto Rico to fund?
There's exactly 211, and if you want to fund all of them, totally open to it.
Which is, remember, if you can't raise money, it's because you probably suck. Hi, Sophia. How are you? She's awesome, by the way. This place is so cool. It's one of our favorite places. So we've got an investment in South Sudan. We've now invested in 5 companies in Latin America. We've been hoping there'll be way more. We've done some in Vietnam. So we're starting to spread US, UK. So we see everything. And literally, one of the people that walked into our door is a guy trying to do a movie. And the movie was, he was a Dexter fan. So what he was doing was a dark comedy on internet dating, and it was really kind of dark. The deal wasn't the movie. We were all excited. It's just cool deal structure. Bear with me. I'm going to geek out for a sec. You give $100,000 to him, but you don't give it to him. You give it to his lawyer. And then, so it's in trust, it's called. And then if he does what he said he was going to do, which was, if he showed this merchant bank in LA that he had the money, 100 grand, the merchant bank would actually raise 5 million. And so that happened. We gave him the 100 to the lawyer. The merchant bank gave 5 million. Our province gave tax credits. So you got 8.5 million for funding. He gives us 300,000 back. So you would do this because it's a great deal. So the money goes on Wednesday. What could possibly go wrong with this deal? This is a sure thing, dude.
Yeah, I mean, so the worst thing is they give the money back, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless they murder somebody and the bank freezes all the bank accounts. So if you want, you can look this up. I always love to tell the truth because people look at me like I got a million stories, right? They're all true. So the guy's name is Mark Twitchell, Twitchell, and my angel group at the time was called Venture Alberta. So you can look it up. 2020 came up from the United States, filmed us. We're in a book. This is not cool because every time I go to an investing conference now, oh, you're the axe murderer guy. It's not a good. You don't want to have that reputation with your investing buddies.
Maybe you could put a spin on it, like you slay the deals.
Well, that's bad.
It's like endless puns.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally.
You need a PR specialist.
And
I should talk.
If you want the details, like basically he pretended he was a female and he'd lure guys to his garage. This is seriously true. And he'd hit him over the head with a shovel, tape him to a chair, and then.
Oh boy.
I just wanted to suck all the energy out of the room.
And was that in Canada?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's the way we roll up there. Absolutely.
Oh man. So on a lighter note, let's talk about social investing.
Yep.
And what that means to you.
So we've been spending a lot of time in emerging economies, and I hate that term. I wish there was a different term. Like, I got to tell you, the companies I've seen in Puerto Rico over the 5 years I've been here are way better than the stuff I'm seeing in Canada, right? But people think Puerto Rico is like an emerging economy. It's just not fair. But let's talk about a real emerging economy where we've been hanging out with South Sudan, okay? And we have a real thesis that there's lots of microfinancing. Everybody loves Kiva. Everybody loves helping out at that level. And then there's the World Bank level, which is how do you give people $3 million? Could you imagine being an entrepreneur in Juba, South Sudan, or how about Damascus right now, right? Can you imagine trying to do a startup in a place where like in Nepal, the power is out 14 hours a day, and that's planned. Right? In Syria right now, the power goes out because there's another bomb. I can't even imagine what these people go through. So the company we funded in Juba was 2 guys from Sudan that lived in Calgary. Their engineers are getting paid stupid well. They have great apartments. They gave it all up and they moved back to Juba, which had a civil war going on, and they started an engineering firm. And right now they've been doing buildings, constructing buildings, doing design. They did $2 million in revenue last year, and they hired 70 people, right? I don't like calling that a social at all. Those guys are locked in. They know what the cost of entrepreneurship is, and everything I say about my PTSD, these guys have got it 4 times over. So we put 300 grand into that company, and they took it as a loan. And the only people that give us a monthly report and have never missed a payment, these guys are rock stars. I'm looking for way more entrepreneurs like that, and I hate calling it social because it's so locked in.
For sure. And I think there's something to be said for hunger, right? And I grew up in New York, so you have all sorts of income inequality. You have like super, super high, super, super lows. You might be at a bar with a multimillionaire and someone who's middle class, right? But there's something to be said for that hunger. There's something to be said for someone who is born without a silver spoon in their mouth because they work 10 times harder to achieve their goals and accomplish them. And like you said, this is the only company that's giving you a monthly report, has never missed a payment because they actually appreciate the fact that you're able to fund them. And I think another point is, through great atrocities, through great struggles and failures comes great opportunities, right? So every single house that was destroyed during Hurricane Maria is now an opportunity to build a new house. Every single business that went out is an opportunity to innovate. We were actually down in La Perla last night. Now, La Perla is a section of Puerto Rico. It's right next to Old San Juan. It's on the cliffs, and it's traditionally...
they tell me I'm not allowed to go there.
Neighborhood. Yes. Everyone tells you don't go there, right?
Yeah.
So what did we do last night? We went there, of course. And all for the gram, right? Take a selfie and post it on the gram. So we went to a bar that is actually someone's house where the roof got blown away. The only part of the building that was left is the bathroom and the fridge that was made out of cement, and they turned it into a rooftop bar, and it's freaking amazing.
That is great.
So that's a testament to, with great atrocities comes great opportunities.
100%. And we are seeing that. I still, right now in Puerto Rico, we're all trying to get off the grid. Like microgrid should be a thing, right?
Sure. This
place should be the world's hotbed for microgrids. Like, I don't understand. Like, that tornado gave us the opportunity to really screw power companies all over the world.
Yes.
Now the lights go off, right? The only thing I want to say too, though, as an investor, you guys are all told about hustle, dig in, fight. Don't get carried away about that. I hate when you've all come to something like this and then you come talk to me and you've been told hustle, right? You know what? I got to tell you, we can tell when it's fake. I can tell when I'm being put on. I can tell when I'm getting played. And then it's death. And then because you've read the same book that I read, you actually follow me into the washroom. It's so not cool, right? What we spend our time telling entrepreneurs is, I hate to say it, the investing game and the whole startup game is actually, it literally is Tinder and all the bad behavior you learned in high school, right? So I spend my time talking about this, like high school, guys, what was the scariest part of high school? It's girls. No, that's nervous laughter. He knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? And as a guy, you spend your whole high school time scared shitless, and at a high school dance, which we all hated going to, we're all up against the gym wall trying to be cool, but we're just like seriously stale pale white guys in a gym who can't get a date, right? That's what it feels like, a startup all the time. And our investor behavior is just as bad. Like we get told who the hot girl is, or the football captain's dating so-and-so. And then the investors go digging in and they follow each other like a bunch of lemmings, right? I'm finding that the best thing to do now is just create a real relationship. Like we're either gonna like each other, or you've already decided this guy's really boring and I don't want to spend any time with him. I'm cool with that, right? Just swipe left, move on, right? The only advice I tell people is Just treat us like real people. We'll try to treat you like real people. And let's figure out who we want to hang out with in a life raft for the next 7 years. Figuring out how to manage food and water, sharks, dead partners, and when we throw them over the side. Like, we got to do all this together. And that's the PTSD is I actually figured it out was, man, it would have been way more cool if I'd just been real the whole time and asked for help when I'm really screwed.
Definitely.
As opposed to every time, yo, it's always so good, man. Everything's great. I got no worries.
No, for sure. And that reminds me of a lot of entrepreneurs who are focused on short term.
Totally.
But before I moved to Puerto Rico and started the Shrub, I worked at a small venture firm, and half those companies they don't exist. The founders dropped the idea and started a new company. We gave them some money. I mean, we didn't give them a lot, but we gave them some seed investment. And the fact that people think that you get invested and then in a year you have your exit, and that's like a 12-month process.
Such a lie, isn't it? Right? I love this guy already. We just met each other, right? He's totally on my wavelength here. But he might not invite me back. Like a lot of people say, if you're really running a business, what are you doing here for 3 days, right? Now, don't get me wrong. You got to learn this stuff. You got to hear this shit, and then you got to get really prepared. But when it's time to get locked in, like my buddies in South Sudan, get fucking locked in, right? But right now it's okay. Wear the t-shirts, come to the conferences, be the startup-y guys. But I have a quick analogy, which is like, it's like that base jumping where everybody puts their fly suits on, and everybody loves that kind of lifestyle, right? So you can imagine this guy in Canada, he gets his Jeep, he's got all the base jumping stickers on his Jeep, and he puts his sleeping bag and his stuff, and he drives to the Grand Canyon, and on a Friday night, there's a big base jumping party, right? And it's so cool. And like, I always joke, Maroon 5 seems to play at all corporate events, so I say, and Maroon 5 is probably paying, brought to you by Oracle. And and then the next morning, everybody gets up, and 7 people go to the edge of the Grand Canyon, and they jump off in the suits, and the other 5,000 people go, yeah, and they think they're base jumpers, right? Right now, I think there's this whole thing going on in the startup ecosystem that this is so cool, right? It's so cool to sit up here, drop a couple F-bombs. It's so cool to come to disrupt. It's so cool to talk about ideas. I love talking about ideas. But I'm telling you, the next step just sucks. It's that
Let's go execute for 7 years.
Let's go execute. What if you're still doing this in 12 years? What if you are like 85% of my investment portfolio? You're not dead, but you're not killing it. You're not going to get up on here. What if you're 20 employees doing $2 million in revenues and you make $100,000 a year for the next 12 years? That's the reality for 85% of you. You're just going to be a zombie.
Well, and that's why I think people should stop starting mediocre companies, right? There's too many people who are like, oh, I can create the Uber for college students. I can create the Tinder for Jewish people. Like, people are just coming up with whatever copy and paste idea, and they're not even Jewish, right? It's like a Muslim guy that wants to open that idea, right? And it's like any idea just to make a company. And I know we have a big crypto community here in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of crypto companies that are doing that. Hey, we're Tinder for crypto. And it's like, no, that's not even a company. That doesn't even make sense, right? And no other company does that, right? Like when Facebook was started, Facebook didn't start with the tech. Zuckerberg wasn't like, hey, I know MySQL. What company can I start with MySQL? It doesn't make any freaking sense. There's a lot of crypto companies that are like, hey, I know crypto. What company can I start with this, right?
Totally. And as an investor guy, what do you think is the most annoying place to be in the world? Is you've been told, come up with this cool idea, and some bozo investor is going to write you a check. So you'll get a pitch deck, and you come up and you think we're stupid. Well, not stupid, but you think that this is
they think
process.
It's easy. They think they scribble an idea on a napkin, they put that into a PowerPoint, and then they're a millionaire.
then I say, well, let me get this straight. So we got a drone. We're going to be an ICO. Oh, it's a drone blockchain ICO, big data AI
Artificial
play.
intelligence.
God, yeah. See, I know all the buzzwords, man. I'm watching the same stuff.
No,
right?
and VR. You can control
Oh,
the
I
drone
forgot
with
the
VR,
VR.
and you pay for it in blockchain.
So we get pitched this, and then when you say no or you laugh, you're I guess cabrones. Can I say that?
Well, and cabron.
Cabron. Yeah. Cabrones is all of you. I'm a cabron. So it's bad.
So, what do you think, man? What are like 2 or 3 things that a potential startup should have in place before they come to you?
I literally only need 2 things. I need to see the whites of your eyes, and I gotta like you. I really do. So people say team, and I actually think that's too much. Like just because you have this amazing team, I'm sorry. I have. I don't know if you noticed. You have it too, by the way. ADHD here, right? So what do you think's the chances you should drop me into an OCD team that's driven by spreadsheets, process, and policy? Right? So, you have a great team. I don't belong. So let's get to that Tinder moment as quickly as possible. It literally is that, hey, did we have a beer together? How are we doing? Are you still laughing at my terrible jokes? Okay, we're good, right? On the other thing, though, is prove to me you're not the only person who cares about what you're doing. It's so simple. This traction thing is not, we don't joke about it. Like the whole Steve Blank thing is real. Like go find 50 people that think you're doing a good thing, right? I don't need you to be in revenue. I just need to see that someone signed an MOU or a letter of intent that says, can you please build that as quickly as possible? That's a really good time for me to invest. A, because you're weak and vulnerable. B, you have a customer, and C, you need my money. Those are really the 2 things I need. Can I add one more?
Sure.
I gotta add one more. Most of you actually haven't thought about it as if it was your money. You just think, I've got money, so that's pretty easy. I kind of like if you have a plan for giving it back.
For sure. I mean, one thing that we used to ask people is, would they still be working on this company if they didn't get funding? Pretend there was no such thing as funding. Are you still going to work on this? Right? And I come from brick and mortar. You mentioned like e-commerce.
Yeah.
Like that's how I got started. And I never went out and asked for any money. So when I see people that are out asking for money, I want them to show me something. Right?
You know what? I love that question because we use the term zombie, and it's not cool. Again, my people, we're bad too. We want you to die, we want you to grow, we want you to fail fast. Actually, you know what? So that's Silicon Valley language, okay? And we have a saying in my firm that Silicon Valley, New York, and Boston, they're the guys with the problem. The 97% of the world, that makes us okay, right? When was the last time imagine Claro. When was the last time Claro bought a company in San Juan for $50 million? Good, silence everywhere, right? Let's go to Cincinnati, Ohio. Give me the last exit of $85 million in Cincinnati, Ohio. Still silence, okay? You know what? We can do a bunch of exits at 8 million or 12. But, you're told you're not cool unless you do it the Valley way. You got to raise a ridiculous round of angel. You got to have a VC.
You can't be profitable. Only small companies are profitable. You have to be losing money.
It's so disgusting, right?
So we're actually, so tomorrow we're going to be at the Science and Technology Trust. And we're interviewing Brain High.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Good.
the first company from Puerto Rico to get accepted into Y Combinator, and they're also the first company that was actually profitable in Y Combinator.
Right.
Because they have that Puerto Rican resiliency
And Canadian,
where
by the way.
we need to be making money.
Yeah, that's the life and death struggle for you guys. In the United States, parts of Canada, a little part of Europe, you can play at entrepreneurship. It's so much fun, right? If it doesn't work out, you move back into my mummy. What would my mummy do if I told her I borrowed $300,000 from some guy from New York, right? What are you doing? Have you forgotten everything we taught you?
Yeah.
Like the value of actually learning how to work and build something that's going to make you alive. don't be ashamed of being a zombie. A zombie is somebody doing $4 million a year, has 10 employees, you've fed 10 families, and you're taking money home. The fact is, I can't make any money out of that as an investor. So that's why we keep using this horrible language about zombies and, unicorns and all that. We haven't figured out a way that we can actually just go out together and build real companies. And I think you should all plan for that. I love that question about, would you still be doing this if I didn't give you any money? I think that is the key question. If the answer is yes, I really love this space, I think I can do this, that's probably who I want to talk to. It's a great question.
Definitely. And I love zombies and unicorns. You should write a book and name it that. It's awesome. I got two more questions. So
they're already bored, by the way.
Yeah, they're bored already, but hopefully these will wake them up. So if you were 18 years old,
I hate this question.
You had no money, no resources, you're in 2018, and you live in Puerto Rico, you have a laptop, Wi-Fi, and a dream, and you have 3 minutes to give yourself some advice, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
It's okay to tell your best friend over a beer, sure, let's start a company. That was okay. I think what you're doing here today is really important. Take as much time as you need to hang out in the startup thing. Just enjoy it. But when it's time, it is time. You get locked in and go. Don't fool around. Have it all planned out, what you're going to do, when you're going to do, what happens, how are you going to find the 12 months, where are you getting the loan, what do you do if you had 100,000, how do you save every nickel? I wish I'd actually taken maybe 10, 12 months to really, are you sure you want to do this? Because once you go, it actually owns you. I don't know too many business owners who, the tiger by the tail thing, you let go of that tail, you're dead, right? Welcome to real entrepreneurship, not startup entrepreneurship. So I wish I told myself, take the time, breathe, enjoy it, but get ready and go.
That's awesome. So I have one last question. Something that we ask all the guests on the Disrupt podcast. Go on iTunes, Spotify.
And he didn't warn me about this one.
And I didn't warn you about this one. What does disrupt mean to you? The word.
I think disrupt is average is boring, and if average exists, let's disrupt it, right? That this place was awesome. Puerto Rico was awesome before the hurricane. That's a little bit of a disruption. It's even more awesome now because everybody here, you're all locked in. You're all locked in.
Thank you. Oh, do we have questions?
We got time for questions? Okay.
Don't, but it's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead, shoot. Quick.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm a small business owner, and I've worked for years since age 12.
Yeah.
So, at what point in time do you know it's the right time to scale your business? Or where's that approach?
I actually think you don't get to choose when to scale your business. Your customers do. Now, if I can real quick, we talk about this all the time when I do something called Basecamp. I just spent 2 days at Parallel 18 with Basecamp. How many of you have vitamin C in your pantry at home? Okay, awesome. When did you buy that vitamin C? 10 months ago, 12 months ago, 14 months? Okay, how much did you spend for that vitamin C? Who in this room wants to sell a $10 vial of vitamin C tablets once every 14 months? Don't do that business, right? So, but the guys who sell vitamin C tablets, they get paid, right? But you want to be the drug. I'm Canadian. We're legal now. You want to be the dealer in your industry. You want every Friday, you want your customer coming to the schoolyard. There's $40. And then one Friday, this is when you know to scale. The customer, I'll call them, comes to the schoolyard and says, yeah, I need the product. And you go, dude, I don't have the product. I got no product. You got no product? I need the product. I don't have this, but I got this.
I'll pay more. Yeah.
That's when you own them, when you are the drug dealer in your industry and you can charge anything.
Like Uber surge pricing. right?
Everyone went.
Yeah. No one likes Uber search.
Yeah.
Uber in Puerto Rico is like $3 everywhere.
Te-
Go to Ponce for $4.99.
So
Lucy in the back, what up?
test your pricing. That's all I'm saying.
How much do you feel that comfort is the cause of the songs? Presumably, if you can make $4 million a year revenue, you are feeding all these people, but you just stalled out. Presumably, you could double that. You could move. If you already have a proven business. So how much do you see comfort or like partner disputes or dumb shit as a reason?
Okay, so all of you will go through 6 things as a startup. There will be 5 partners or 3 partners or 2, and then there's a body that disappears and goes under a bus or gets lost somewhere. That happens, the disruption thing that we talked about. I actually think sometimes we're our own worst enemy. You know what? What's wrong with running a $4 million company? Do it properly. If you don't like doing that, sell it to somebody. Don't be your own worst enemy. Like we tinker and we tinker and we tinker and we tinker, and then we break something. Oh shit. Sometimes I think as entrepreneurs, you got to be really careful about when's the right time to tinker. And if you're always tinkering, like me, I know there's a time for me to get out of the business. When I start getting bored, it's time for me to leave because now I can actually hurt myself, if that makes sense. There are people, they get these things, they're called MBAs. Okay, they're absolutely useless people for entrepreneurs. Any MBAs here? How many did I just take a shot at? Yeah, all right, good. Okay, so they're the guys. They're the guys in an investor forum that say, "Hey, so what's your total addressable market?" And I think that's a really good question. And all of you are going to say to me, $1 billion. No shit, right? I never saw that coming. But MBAs are awesome when people. I think you've got the same problem I have. Like when it's time to leave, you hire an MBA. They love this thing. It's build, operate, maintain. Those are the 3 places. If you love building and it gets into operate, get out. Don't break it, right? If it gets to maintain, hire an MBA, get out of the way, do something else.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cheers,
man.
guys.
Appreciate it.